Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Love Procurement Podcast. My name is Kelly Barner, and I'll be your host for today's conversation. I'm glad to welcome Alex Saric to the show. Alex is Ivalua's Chief Marketing Officer, and he's here today to give us a preview of upcoming Ivalua NOW in-person events. So, hi, Alex. Thank you so much for being with me.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. Now, I'm sure I'm saying something that our listening or watching audience already knows, but Ivalua has quite a reputation for these in-person events. So before we get into sort of the glamorous details of locations and exciting things about cities and geography, let's talk a little bit about theme. Do you have an overarching theme that will be guiding the content and conversations at this year's Ivalua NOW events?
We do. And each year we like to come up with a theme. We really look at what's going on in the market, procurement, just in the global economy, and try to have something that's on point.
Yeah.
This year, the theme is shaping new horizons. And it really came from the fact that there's so much change and uncertainty taking place in terms of geopolitics, the global economy, and certainly in technology as well. I mean, opportunities and challenges. And I think if you're a business leader, you have two options. You can kind of sit back and be shaped and have your organization shaped by these factors, or you can be proactive, embrace new technologies, new ways of working to really actually shape what that future is going to be. And hence the theme, shaping new horizons, because we're going to focus a lot on what leaders can do to be proactive.
I think what I like about that idea is that obviously it's specific enough that we all know what it refers to, but this idea of horizon, in my mind, it's sort of a shifting concept. So depending on what form of business change or what topic you're talking about, maybe how far into the future you're planning or you feel like you have visibility, I think that will probably make for some interesting conversations based on how far away people think their certainty or planning horizon is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, in terms of locations, where are some of the spots or one big location that you sort of want to spotlight where these events will be taking place?
Well, the core event, and I can talk a little bit more about the changes in the model, but we're having one core global event, Ivalua NOW, which is taking place in Paris at the Carousel du Louvre for the main event, which is right at the famous museum that I'm sure everyone is aware of. And then we, of course, like to have a great closing party at the end. In the past years, we've done the Palace of Versailles, the Opera Garnier, some very elegant ones. This year, we're going for something a bit more fun at the Pavilion de Bercy, which is a historic building that has a lot of old museum exhibits, and it's going to be a very more light and fun experience. And I'm sure it's going to be fantastic for everyone.
Absolutely. So sort of an interesting mix of historical and highbrow, but like you said, also fun if people are coming in from all over the world to get together. Now, you mentioned a change in concept. So this is sort of your one big location, but you've been talking about this, that you've been looking at feedback, you've been looking at different opportunities around when and where events will be happening. Can you talk a little bit about this shift that you'll be leading with this
Yeah,
next
definitely.
series
We
of
always try
events?
to accommodate kind of what our audience, our customers, our partners are kind of looking at, what's going on within their companies and personal preferences. In the past, we had two large events, one in the United States and one in Europe, typically. We decided to move towards more of a hub and spoke model, with this one large Ivalua NOW in Paris, which will be a huge event, almost 2,000 people. It's one of the largest in the world for everyone that really wants to get together with a global audience and have this mass of experience and perspectives in place. But on top of that, we're going to have a bunch of local events, which we call Procurement Innovation on Tour, to really complement that. And attendees can attend both, or they can just attend one based on their preferences. And the reason why we made the shift this year is we have heard from a lot of companies that they're getting cutbacks in travel.
Yeah.
They just don't want to travel as much. So they want to kind of stay more close to home. Others are perfectly willing to travel, so then they have a main event to go to. But on top of that, we also see a lot more interest in local networking, local communities, especially these days where a lot of the issues that procurement's facing is actually local. That the tariff and the trade policies in Canada are very different now than ones in the United States. Similar in different countries in Europe and Asia, they're facing a lot of the same issues, but in different ways. So we really want to nurture that and help build those communities. So we're expanding our local events to be much more broader across Asia, North America, and Europe. So people have the opportunity to go to a global one and then continue the conversation locally, or if they just don't want to travel, they can just attend a local event.
Yeah. Now, when we think about, I mean, we have your theme for the year that I'm sure will carry across locations. And it's interesting that you're trying to localize some of the implications of and response to geopolitical events, things going on in supply chains. Is there a way for you to sort of preview either some of the session topics or maybe some of the speakers that people might get to hear from if they're able to be at some of these events?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, clearly, we're still recruiting speakers and finalizing the agenda at this point. The main event, Ivalua Now, is until March 11th and 12th of next year. But we've already identified quite a few. We'll have dozens of speakers, mostly from our customers, as well as partners and some global thought leaders. We have procurement, supply chain leaders from Hutchinson, from companies like Chibo and Kerber in Germany, Credit Agricole in France, Alliad from the Middle East, M1 Telecommunications from Asia, all coming together, and many more that we've already confirmed will be signing in the coming months. So it's going to be quite a forum with a lot of different perspectives across industries, across regions.
In-person events are so interesting because they're sort of simultaneously social gatherings, but also content creation. And then they're also sort of learning and development opportunities. So when you think about, whether it's specific to a session or just feedback you've gotten from events in the past, I'm curious about how you're planning to structure the sessions, main stage, structure sessions in breakouts. What do you hear from attendees are the most popular and useful formats for these sessions?
So we have a few different formats. I will say in terms of our customers and the thought leader sessions focused on specific topics, which is the core. That's definitely
Yeah.
the majority of the content. Of course, we also showcase some of our technologies as well. But for those core sessions, what we've consistently heard is people want punchier, shorter ones, getting to the point. So we do a lot more panels, fireside chats, where rather than having a 10, 15-minute overview of the company, and maybe in the last 5 minutes, you get a lesson or an action item from it, we dive into specific pain points, how they addressed it, the innovative things that they're doing, and really focus on those. And a lot of the sessions are typically 20 minutes or perhaps 30, 40 minutes at the longest, to a tie to the attention spans and to make sure that we focus on the key lessons and takeaways rather than a lot of background.
Yeah. And I think that does make sense. I mean, procurement, yes, we want to be visionary. We want to think big picture, but we also want to walk away from these events saying to ourselves, I'm going to go ask about this, or I'm going to go try this in my organization. And so it's wonderful if the format can support some of those activities. Now, that's within procurement. And I'm sure, although you can tell me if it's not the case, those are probably the majority of the attendees coming to these events. But are there any cross-functional themes or even representative groups that you're expecting to have a larger than usual tie-in to Ivalua Now?
There are, and I think the one that I'd call out that's probably the most distinctive this year is pulling IT a lot closer into it. I find that if you look at the past 20 years or so, it's interesting when SaaS first came about, there was more of a shift away from IT driving a lot of the technology purchasing to the functions, making their own decisions. And IT was always involved to some extent, but it was very business function driven, procurement driven. These days, we're seeing that IT is becoming more and more of an influencer in the same because a lot of the decisions around data architecture, around security, with AI, with intake management solutions that were often span across different functions, are really pulling IT back in to make sure that they're making smart decisions for the company. So they have a bigger seat at the table than they may have in the past. And then perhaps more importantly, what we've seen, and I know I've personally seen this among our customers, the ones that are most successful are consistently the ones that have a very tight collaboration with IT. So we want to give that perspective and not just it be a procurement inside out view. And a great example, I mentioned Hutchinson is one of our speakers. Their CIO will be one of the keynote speakers talking about how procurement and IT need to collaborate more effectively to ensure that their digital transformations as well as their rollout of AI are successful and really impact the business.
Are you finding from conversations that whether it's the innovative potential or whether it's, to be realistic, the security concerns that go along with AI that are driving sort of this resurgence in IT involvement, and so therefore the partnership between procurement and IT?
It is. It's a big factor. And I think AI has been a catalyst for this
Yeah.
because it raises concerns on ethics, making sure that it's used properly, to make sure on security that you're not accidentally leaking confidential information, that you're not making decisions that are going outside the company and
Yeah.
potentially being served to other customers. So that's definitely a big factor. But also there are a lot of questions of how these systems interact. And are you using AI embedded in the application? Are you using some kind of external AI solution? So AI has been the catalyst. It's not the only one. There are other factors at play as well, but it's definitely been the catalyst to pulling IT and as well data architecture, which is an area that procurement has struggled with data as long as I've been in this space, over 20 years.
Yeah.
It's always a challenge. A lot of companies have got past it, and that's something that we focus, and we have a lot of topics specifically looking at supplier data. But it's something that IT plays a big role in advising procurement and ensuring that they're positioning them for success, just for making decisions, but also from making sure that AI can actually give them informed decisions by accessing their information securely.
Now, when you bring in the point about information security, it actually is an interesting tie back to the point you were making earlier about some of these topics being more localized. So I think of examples like GDPR, those regulations around data, and I will spare everyone and just say the German one. Not attempt to say that very big long word, but similar concept around data privacy rules and regulations. And that is certainly something that would be different and would affect procurement differently based on the region where the work is done, and therefore the CIO CPO relationship that goes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about the German one, the Lieferkettengesetz, the German
There you
supply
go.
chain law.
I'll let you be in charge of that one.
Is a great example. There are a lot of local legislations and regulatory requirements, whether it's EU-wide, country-wide,
Yeah.
in the United States. So that's a big factor. And one of the things that we do besides the local events, at the main event, is try to give the attendees opportunities to network with people that are facing a lot of the same issues. So there will, for example, be aerospace and defense groups. There'll be industry dinners and networking sessions, roundtable discussions by country, where there's German or French language can get together with their peers. We think that's an important part of it as well, especially when you're with 2,000 people in a certain space, that you still have an opportunity to connect with some that are facing the exact same issues as you.
Absolutely. And I will say too, it's interesting because what is it? What goes around comes around. I will admit, I remember when software as a service became more popular. I
Yep.
remember when procurement solutions went from all basically being on-prem to all being in the cloud. And I do remember how that changed the procurement IT relationship. I think we're going to probably find out in the next 8 months, 12 months, 18 months, which of the procurement teams maintained good relationships with their IT department. Hopefully we can all learn the lesson if there were any mistakes made from sort of a collegial tone standpoint. But then I also appreciate sort of the idea of being able to network along those different slices and dices, whether it happens to be company size, industry, location, language certainly plays a factor as well. Alex, if people are listening to this conversation or watching you and I chat about Ivalua Now and are interested in either your hub at the Louvre or any of your spokes that will be taking place around the world, what is the best thing for them to do to learn more about maybe being able to attend one of these events?
Well, the best thing is to just go to ivaluanow.com and you can see a detail, or you can just go to ivalua.com and look at resources and events. You can see all the details there, and we'll constantly update them as we secure more speakers and confirm more of the topics. That's the best place to go to. You can also certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have a question. Yeah, and I'd say for the event overall, I mean, what we really strive, and our goal every year is to make sure it's memorable. There are a lot of events out there, and I think a big reason why it's grown so much is we really do try to stand out from the overall experience. And I think one of the influencers last year that wrote about the event that we had in Paris as well, said that what stood out was that it's authentic. We try to be pretty transparent about what's possible today, what's not in the technology that we actually show, things that actually are available or coming very soon. And most of the stage is taken up by our customers and partners because we really want their thoughts to really shine. And we're kind of the backdrop for it, if you will.
Absolutely. And of course, there's always a balance like that at any given event, right? The Ivalua team is amazing. We regularly get the opportunity to showcase them here on Love Procurement. But there's something about being in our profession, you just never get tired of hearing from a peer, from a colleague, whether they're talking about a success or whether they're being frank about challenges. That is one of the most valuable things that you get to hear about these in-person events is executives that are sharing content that potentially their comms team would never approve them saying in some sort of recorded fashion. So that's one of those additional benefits of being together with people in person.
Yeah, there will be a lot of CIOs, CPOs, heads of supply chain. And if you are one of that member of the team, we also do have networking events just for the executives where they can speak about issues that they're dealing with at their level as well. So we've got a little bit of something for everyone.
Excellent. Well, Alex, thank you for this preview. I think in addition to everything else, I will not only have your event planning team in my mind, but we can all start now wishing for good weather so that you have beautiful days in Paris. And then, of course, all of the other cities around the world where you'll be getting together. Thank you for being here to talk about the theme and the philosophy behind setting up this series of events.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Kelly. It's always great to touch base and certainly to talk about Ivalua and the exciting things that we have coming down the road.